Thank you, Dr. Basalira. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank you for joining us this Thursday. Those of you that are joining us for the very first time, we are happy to be with you. So this morning, we are talking about standards and why they matter for our businesses. First, I would like to congratulate all of us Ugandans that we are a leading nation in the entrepreneur drive. But it is also true that many of our micro and small businesses struggle to grow beyond their first year or second year. And one of the reasons, there are several factors, of course, but one of the reasons why our businesses struggle is because of the lack of standards or a failure to establish standards for their businesses. And of course, as Professor Abaho, our speaker this morning, will be sharing with us, standards help a business in several ways, because with standards, you have a very clear way of doing something. You follow rules, you have guidelines that you all decide to follow in the business. And the problem we have also in Uganda is that most of our businesses have not established these standards. They run on a founder's personal energy. When the founder is present in the business, you find that the quality is good, the service is good. But once they step away or delegate to staff, we see a failure in service because there are no written rules or clear steps that exist to guide the staff in the business. So you find that today you get an amazing service, and then tomorrow, because the founder is not available, the service goes down. And also it is true that many businesses fear certification, because in Uganda, the body responsible for standards is the Uganda National Bureau of Standards. And some businesses feel that this is expensive, or it is taxing, and they fail to realize the importance of unlocking markets once they have these standards in place. Most entrepreneurs would like to cut corners, they would like to compromise their processes, and this, in the end, destroys their brand reputation. So this morning, we want to listen to Professor Ernest Abaho sharing with us why standards matter for us, regardless of what you're doing. I know that online we have people running different businesses, but we need to understand what kind of standards apply to you in your business, and how would recognizing these standards and putting them in place help you to further grow your business. I would like to share with you a little more about Professor Abaho, our speaker this morning. He is a professor of entrepreneurship and innovation at Makerere University Business School in the Department of Entrepreneurship and Innovation. He's the managing director of MUBS Consultancy. He's also a director at NEC Finance. He's a researcher. He has consulted in business development, innovation, and governance. At Makerere University Business School, he's also the chairman of the Curriculum Review Committee. He's a member of the National Business Development Services Policy Steering Committee at the Ministry of Finance, Finance Planning and Economic Development, and also a member at the National Steering Committee on Competence-Based Education. Professor Abaho, you're welcome to make your presentation. You may use 35 minutes, and then we shall have a question and answer session following thereafter. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you very much, and a good morning to you. Thank you for inviting me to speak about something that we have tended to sideline under the excuse of enforcement and unfair treatment for the traders and other entrepreneurs, because we see standards as police and everyone that is associated with standards and enforcement. I wanted to know how many of us online have businesses and have the UNBS Q mark. You may not tell us, but at least you reflect. But also how many of us know what UNBS does, the way we know what Murago does, the way we know what Makerere does, the way we know what Uganda Breweries does. Do we know what UNBS does? Those are some of the questions I wanted to start with so that we reflect. But also to understand that standards matter much more than we imagine. And perhaps the reason we are still in the economic classification as Uganda that we are in, it could be an issue of standards. So largely today, I will talk about why standards are important for our businesses, irrespective of the sector, the size, and the owner, because it's important. And partly I'll use part of the evidence, empirical evidence about the benefits that enterprises are deriving out of standards. We are also privileged on call to have the executive director of the Uganda National Bureau of Standards, who at one point will speak to us. And maybe it's an opportunity also for us to ask him some of the pressing questions that you may ordinarily have found it difficult to reach him. And I think it is good that we have him online. So part of the evidence I'll present is going to be disseminated to us through the permission of the UNBS to share with the public. So we have a desire to reach the 500 billion USD on the GDP, and that is a national desire. And we assume that the national desire comes out of the individual enterprises that we have in the country. So this dream of 2040 is somewhere around 63 billion now, because the 50 billion was in 2023. And it is based on the argument that the key challenge that economies face is the non-tariff barrier. Non-tariff barrier means that you are failing to access a certain market, not because of the high taxes there, but because of the technical barriers to trade. Technical barriers to trade means that what is stopping you from supplying Kenya has nothing to do with taxation. It's the requirements on your product that are denying you access to that market. And when you look at the World Bank, the 2025 World Development Report, there is a line I picked, and they say that, allow me to read it verbatim: standards are the hidden foundations of prosperity, shared rules that carry collective knowledge, build trust between strangers, and let markets function. Where they break down, markets fragment. Where they hold, prosperity follows. If I was to use the evangelical approach, I would have gone through explaining each of these, but pick the lines where they break down, markets fragment. It means that where you don't meet standards, then your market dies. And then where they hold, prosperity follows. Where the standards are met, you comply, you conform, then you prosper because you sell. So there is evidence that even from the global perspective, the standards matter and you need to take them. So in simple terms, when you talk of a standard, it's a document. This document builds up a consensus and it is approved by a recognized body. Consensus about what is quality, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, what are the minimum attributes, the value propositions, and how it moves. And in each of the sectors, standards matter, because there are standards, for example, on the size of a spoon, a teaspoon. So a teaspoon in Spain should be a teaspoon in Uganda, a teaspoon in Kenya, a teaspoon in DRC, so that if you want to make a teaspoon, it is received as a teaspoon in the market. We agree on what makes a good teaspoon, and then it is approved so that it is recognizable across all the market. So the commonalities, the homogeneities of that product are very critical. It helps avoid having so many descriptions, and sometimes they confuse the market. And where the market is not comfortable with those descriptions, that's when we lose the business. So simply put, you agree on the rules that make the material, the product, the process, the service, or a system safe. That's standardization. And when it is that way, then you can rely on it and it fits your purpose as a consumer. And why it is important is that it is part of the definitions of quality. So the standards are not just to be enforced, but you can work on them voluntarily. So you have also to know that some standards are market-based. A client may have specific standards beyond the ordinary standards. So when it is written down, it is enforceable. But the best way is to be voluntary. Now, why is it important for voluntary conformance? If you do not conform, the market can run away even before UNBS comes to you. Because where you are in a market where that people are aware of the standards, then you have to know that people can run away even before UNBS comes to enforce. So there are different classifications of standards, but largely it's about what is standardized, where the scope of the standard is, and also by economic purpose. So there are so many ways, depending on what you are doing in your business. It could be a process standard, it could be a product standard. For example, what is the standard of a book? The ISBNs, the book size, the type of paper, etc. If you are an author, if you have a salon, what are the standards of that salon? What are the process standards if you have a school? When is the homework? When is the exam? What is the standard of the exam? Those are service standards. But even within that, what are the standards of managing a school? Do you have a teacher, a director of studies, all those management requirements? Then there are terminology standards. You cannot run a secondary school and you call it a university secondary school. Some of those, of course, there are issues of metrology, especially testing and measurement standards. You realize that they used to call it corner, the weighing scales. The purpose is to standardize so that a kilo of sugar in Chitintare, shop 1 is a kilo of sugar in Chitintare, shop 2, and it is a kilo of sugar in Karamoja. Those are standards. Of course, we have the compatibility standards, especially in the IT sector, the issues of interoperability. That's why you see a SIM card does not ask whether it is iPhone or Samsung or Itel. Those are issues of compatibility. Issues of standards are largely related to the food value chains, but also in infrastructure, technology, equipment, all those. And now we have had environmental standards, especially the ESG, in terms of to strengthen environmental sustainability. Now, we have standards on scope, the international standards, regional standards, national standards, and industry standards. What I started with are largely to do with industry standards, but then we have frameworks. International, we have ISO, IEC, Codex, etc. But also we have our Africa and East Africa standards, EAC, ASO, all those. And then they are usually harmonized purposely to interoperate them. And then we have our home-based UNBS. There are so many standards, and you need to know the standards that are applicable to your business so that you become more competitive when you are trading, even locally, because that's why you choose to go to a salon 10 kilometers away from your home, and yet you go beyond 1,000 salons. There must be a reason, and sometimes subconsciously it has something to do with the standards. So reflecting on number 3, they could be for economic purpose. So issues of metrics. That's why you find someone, for example, in fuel, you say this petrol station bakubempeo. Then you go to another one. It's an issue of standards. But otherwise, why would you skip a petrol station to another one? It's an issue of the confidence that you have in their standards. Of course, there are issues of information and reference. You have variety. We standardize because we want to minimize varieties. Varieties confuse markets. And of course, we've talked about compatibility. We have talked about safety and environment. Now, quickly, when you look at the importance of standards from the macroeconomic perspective, Uganda has been lucky that we have the highest contribution to GDP by standards. When you look at Canada, United Kingdom, Nordic countries, Senegal, Australia, France, and others, Uganda has the highest benefit of standards. But then you have to understand it could be high in terms of contribution to GDP, but who is producing? That's when issues of local content come in. Because you may be here saying we are benefiting from standards, we are shining, but is this an indigenous enterprise benefiting from standards? Or is it inbound or outbound? Those are some of the scholarly questions which may not be necessary for today here, but at least you see Uganda tops the rest of the world in terms of the contribution of standards. And that's why you may have to think that maybe our UNBS is the unsung hero in terms of economic contribution to private sector development. Now, the evidence that we have, and I'll go through this strongly and quickly, out of a study of 1,433 enterprises and 50 business associations and a profile of 5 value chains that are in the ATM, the agro-industrialization, oil and gas, excuse me, STI, tourism and mineral development, the level of awareness about standards is at 75.4%. Those are the enterprises that are aware of standards. Are you part of the 75.4%? Are you aware of the standards that apply to your business? Or you are on the other side? So as members of this platform, my wish is that you could be part of the 75.4% that are aware of standards. But those who are aware are not necessarily adopting. It's only 57.4% that have actually adopted standards. Now, in the morning as I was coming to office, I was listening to a preacher said that people go to church, they are aware of the word of God, but very few actually practice the word of God. And so we have people, enterprises that are aware of standards, the importance of standards, but only 57.4% are actually adopting the standards. That means that I think UNBS needs to come and say, yes, you are aware of this. Why are you not doing this? But also you need to know that being aware alone does not help your business. You need to actually adopt and benefit from that. So benefits that are gathered from the evidence of that 1,433 farms that were studied, and of those 822 are adopting the 54%, 57.4%. They have experienced few enforcement sanctions. Those of you who have had an encounter with UNBS closing your shop, you see the disruption that it makes on your business. Now, 17.4% of these report that after adopting standards, they are no longer having enforcement challenges. And 22.3% have reported that their businesses are no longer disrupted. Imagine, I know the ED is listening of UNBS, but imagine you come and close your restaurant when it is at 1 p.m. and it is full. That's a huge disruption. But for those in exports, 24.1% have reported that they have met export requirements, therefore they have been able to sell to the export markets. Others have opened new markets, 61.2%. So you see the benefits are more. And others retain existing buyers, the 65.8%. Now, the most interesting part is that when you adopt standards, people will not reject your products. And 80.1% report that they have benefited from that. Of course, from the operations perspective, when you adopt standards, there is a report evidence that you get new products because it is an innovation anchor. Adoption of standards improves efficiency, strengthens productivity. Of course, there is waste reduction. People sell more because you have no rejections, you have no disruptions, you have no enforcement. And then you have the productivity gains. But 87.9% have quality improvement. Remember earlier we talked about that. So within the business, the standards strengthen your commercial communication because your product is consistent. I come today, I take tea, I come tomorrow, it's the same taste. Doesn't keep changing because you have standards. Productive efficiency. When you keep fluctuating on the quality, on the inputs, then you will have sometimes reduce, and reduce affect efficiency. You spend more on producing. But when you look at some of our ICT products, especially that now there is more awareness of what a standard IT product is, what a standard application is, etc. It means that we will have more Ugandan ICT innovators competing in the global and regional markets because our IT products can be interoperable. Interoperability means compatibility with others. I develop an app here, it means it can work along with an app in Kenya, in South Africa. So it is easy to get subscribers and users. And then, of course, it is a public welfare, especially when you look at public interest. You have to safeguard the public, so it gains you a good reputation. Of course, issues of technology transfer and adoption. The more you adopt standards, the more you become aware of sophistications in the marketplace, the more you satisfy the market, and the more you gain in terms of technology adoption. And there you are an early adopter or an innovator. So you move away from the category of laggards, and then it makes you more competitive. The moment you do that, then you have started entering sustainability, because there you have stronger processes, you have resilient business functions, you access high value markets, and then you have a better reputation. So for different sectors, you have to know where you belong. For example, looking at our ATMs, the agro-industrialization, we have the gaps, the good agricultural practices if you are in agriculture, whether it is smallholder farming, whether it is horticulture, whether it is backyard farming, there are standards, there are different good agronomical agricultural practices. So you need to get to that, issues of moisture storage. UNBS has certifications that you need to get to understand how to benefit from. We have manufacturing and light industry. Again, we have the Q mark from UNBS and the good manufacturing practices, issues of packaging, labeling, barcoding. If you are in tourism, there are classifications that we have, you need to get to them. and you have to join UHOA and all the other institutions that support. Then, of course, I talked about interoperability. It's a very critical standard requirement, but also issues of interface and user care and environmental responsiveness. These must start at the prototype, the ideation stage. And then, of course, minerals. I know there are fewer people engaged in this, but you need to understand the metallurgical testing standards. And I know the ED has invested a lot in the minerals standards. And then, of course, we have the oil and gas, the local supply farms, issues of health and safety. Now we have those issues, especially the ESG requirements, but also UNBS has recognized testing centers that you need to know so that you don't go to a wrong place that will again make you redo the retest. So there are so many ways of getting started to join the standardization journey, but usually it is recommended that you start with the products, then you go to the process, you go in safety, and then you go to market and buyer schemes. Usually you do that because when you reverse it, sometimes there are overlaps. But when you start with standards, you find that you are taking care of some market buyer scheme requirements. So 88% of the sample that I'm talking about, they are already adopting and they have taken that step. For process and systems, currently in Uganda, we are about 69% of the adopters in this step. The issue of safety and environment, around 59% of the adopters. So you see the number drops because it gets more complex and demanding, but the low-hanging fruit is the product standards. Now, finally, what does this mean to the entrepreneur? You have to treat certification and compliance as an investment. It's not a burden. These licensing fees that we pay are not an expenditure. They are keys to stronger and sustainable competitive markets. So I've talked about how to start with products, and then you go as the sophistication moves on. And then, of course, I would recommend that you join business associations. We have a very low level of participation in business associations, and our circles are still weak. You only find around 26.8% of firms are active. Are you a member of any relevant business association? Something for you to reflect. And then, of course, you have to negotiate with the UNBS about the fees. There are different fees classifications. You can go to them and they give you technical support. Now, from the scholarly perspective, we need to interest ourselves, one, in training our learners, our people, our ecosystem actors on standards. We need to look at profiling, develop metadata on monitoring standards adaptation, etc. It's something that as scholars we need to pick interest in. For policy, because I've seen some people here from government, the challenge of costs is still high, and since the executive director is online, he may speak about it. But also, some of them, the people complain that most of the UNBS's services are Kampalaized. So we need to have more regional presence and to the local communities, especially now that we have the PDM and other interventions like GROW. So we need to get back to the communities. And then, of course, the conclusion is that standard compliance is not a cost, it's an opportunity. The way you go to pray for God to forgive you, to allow you to go to heaven, it's not a burden going to pray. That's why you pay tithe. So if you pay tithe, you want God to give you favor. Why don't you comply with standards so that the market can give you favor? With that, when we do it, we shall unblock the markets, we shall strengthen our efficiency, and we contribute to our country. So where to go? I think for us, we turn to UNBS. I want to thank you for this opportunity to share this. And I look forward to an engagement. Thank you, and over to you, our host.
Thank you very much, Professor Ernest Abaho. We appreciate you for handling this very important topic of why standards matter for your enterprise in Uganda. We appreciate you, Professor Abaho. You are our own, and we are happy whenever you come to make a presentation to us at Makerere University Business School. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for finding time in your business schedule to come and make this presentation. Thank you very much. And I would like to appreciate you for inviting the Executive Director of UNBS, Engineer Dr. James Kasigwa. And I would imagine that it would be important to invite him to say something before we go to the Q&A. I would like to invite you. We are honored, Engineer Dr. James Kasigwa, the Executive Director of UNBS. We are honored to have you on this call. We would like to invite you to make a statement or say something about standards before we go to the Q&A session. Dr. James Kasigwa, if you are still on, kindly unmute and you say something to us. We are honored to have you, sir. Technical team, kindly enable Dr. James Kasigwa to unmute. Technical team, have you identified him?
Yes, I think I'm unmuted.
All right. You're most welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Associate Professor Diana Ntamu, Dr. Basari Roa, Professor Ernest, and all distinguished members on the call. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. James Kasigwa is my name, and I'm the Executive Director, Uganda National Bureau of Standards. I must appreciate the leadership of MUBS and the program for inviting an eminent Ugandan, Ernest, to share on quite an important subject, the importance of standards for entrepreneurship. I'm seeing that time is not on our side because this is quite a diverse subject. But allow me quickly pick it off where Professor left. I think when you think about like national development, economic transformation, performance of enterprises, and even the performance at an individual personal level, you cannot underscore the importance of standards. And maybe there is a belief I have come to have that the difference between developed economies and the developing economies is the uptake and use of standards. Because look at it this way. We are now in the third, the industrial revolutions. There was the first industrial revolution, the second, and now the third. The first with the steam engine. No, we are on the fourth. The first steam engine, then the electricity, the computer, and the internet. And now we are talking about the fourth industrial revolution, largely driven by AI. In all that process, what we call the developing economies have not benefited much from those industrial revolutions. So I believe at where we are on the fourth, we as Africa and particularly Uganda, I think we need to learn very quickly. And I think, as Abaho said, standards are the hidden infrastructure or the hidden foundation for development. What do I mean? Look at if you have a car and you go downtown for a spare part. If they tell you this is Japan or German, you will quickly buy before you think about the Taiwan or name any other part from any other countries, largely because you believe that some countries produce quality. Now, Abaho stated one statement from the World Bank Development Report of 2025, just last November, that standards are the hidden foundation for development. There is another one I want to give to the audience, especially that they are entrepreneurs, that the one who owns the standard owns the market. The one who owns the standard owns the market. And the call I want to make here is that you need to participate in developing and shaping the standards. Now, quickly, UNBS, we are in the business, we are the apex body for quality standards, quality and standard enforcement. So we develop, promote, and enforce quality and safety standards for public health. We ensure fair trade and ensure consumer protection to the extent of value for money for the products they buy and fitness for purpose. But there is another core function that we do. We ensure that our locally produced products and services are competitive in both the local markets and beyond the global international markets. Now, the role of standards, and Professor Abaho has really quickly put it very well. They ensure compliancy, conformity, and interoperability of whatever you're doing in the wider market, both local and international. But there is another one of market access. Now, you cannot survive when you don't have the market. Talking about the market, I think that is how Uganda wants to develop and make the $500 billion economy. And that will come through the enterprises. And I think Professor Diana highlighted the nature of businesses we have in this country. They are largely micro, small and medium enterprises. The mortality rate is high, and they are largely in the informal economy. Now, to move that kind of enterprises, we must adopt standards so that we can actually now begin tapping into the AFCFTA. That's a 3.4 trillion market. We are now beginning to talk about the halal market, which is a 7.6 trillion market. And as a country, we are actually blessed to have the natural resources. We pride ourselves as the breadbasket of Africa. So if we can only produce quality standard products, the enterprises will grow from micro to small and large, and through that we will achieve our $500 billion economy. Time not being on my side, allow me just say that I am very pleased to be on the call, but I'll engage in the Q&A. Over to you, Edith.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ingenia James Kasigwa. We are honored to have you, and thank you for finding time in your business schedule to come and join us here. I would like now to hand over to Mr. Andrew Ongwen to handle Q&A as we progress. Andrew, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Edith. Thank you so much, Professor Abaho. Thank you so much, Mr. Kasigwa, for that presentation. We are going into the Q&A, and I want to invite everyone who has a question to put it on the chat or the Q&A section, or you raise your electronic hand. We shall be in position to see. So we have our very first question coming in from Emmanuel Tumu Kugize. He's saying, thank you so much, Professor Abaho, for the informative session. My question is, what does it mean that Uganda is leading the world in terms of adherence to standards on the market, with that are a lot of standard-related issues and a feeling of lack of consumer protection. There are fake electronic products, medical products, and we have had people die from locally made brews, poor quality textiles, etc. At ED, Dr. James Kasigwa, are our standards simply low? Why don't Ugandans feel it? Thank you. That's Emmanuel. Allow me take 3 questions, and then you will respond to that because of time. And I also have a question coming in from me. We have had major manufacturers like Hima Cement. This one is to Dr. Kasigwa. We've had major manufacturers like Hima Cement, where recently our products were rejected by Rwanda because of the packaging. We give them between 48 to 49 kgs or 47 kgs of cement, a bag, yet standard it's supposed to be 50 kilograms. And our neighbor, Rwanda, rejected our products. The brand reputation, Dr. Kasigwa, and financial losses are massive. How should companies view the cost of strictly adhering to standards versus such higher financial risks of cross-border product rejection? And then one other question to Dr. Abaho, Professor Abaho. Professor Abaho, in Nebi district, there's a case, an entire consignment of government-supplied pesticides was rejected because the inputs had already expired. How can standards agencies like you, NRSB, and procurement bodies better monitor the supply chain to ensure expired and substandard inputs don't reach farmers in the first place? So I think Dr. Kasigwa can respond, and then Professor Abaho also comes in.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, okay, number 2, standards simply low. Why don't Uganda feel it? Then the other question was about major manufacturers like Tororo, the 40 kilogram issue, and the products rejected in the market. Let me first say 3 things. Number 1, as UNBS, I think we are beginning now to realign our mandate to fit into the national development framework, where we are looking to, 1, yes, ensure that we protect quality and safety of the public, but also enable our enterprises produce quality to ensure that they are competitive. Now, we have made like 3, we are on a new strategic plan, and our 3 priorities are as follows. Number 1, we are moving away from policing to hand-holding. We want to hand-hold the MSMEs to ensure that they are meeting the standards that are required in the market. That's number 1. Then number 2, we want to change our approach from demand-driven standards development to needs-driven standards development. What that means, we want to develop value chains around the potential of our natural resources. When you look at, say, a cow, people will sell it based on the kilos of meat they look or the milk. But with a cow, there are so many industries that standards can actually help unlock. For example, the hides and skin, the leather industry is so huge. Talk about the horns, and all those are industries about the resources we have. Then lastly, and I think most important in line of the questions that have been put across, is we want to develop what we call the national quality culture, where both the producers of products and the consumers are both demanding quality. Sorry, are both looking to produce quality, but also the consumer demands for quality. What do I mean? When Tororo Cement produces a bag of cement and we monitor them, the other day I came out to make a statement on the 40 kilogram bags of cement that were claimed to be on the market. Tororo Cement will produce 40 kilograms, but the supply chain down is so long to monitor. Now, where every Ugandan now demands and ensures quality and becomes a police of quality, that is how we are going to solve that. On the said Rwanda, recently I saw about some of our alcohol and some soft drinks being banned, and we also came up with a statement. I want to say, one, I cannot confirm or deny because of what I said of a long supply chain from the factory to the last consumer. Now, but that said, every company that we certify meets the minimum quality and safety standards. That's number one. But two, and most importantly, trade is a war. There is what we call business rivalry, and you will find that in an industry like the alcoholic drinks, the local industries or the kombuchas are pushing hard on the market share of the large breweries. And these large breweries have influence in policy and even in the standards development. So we need to be aware that as a country, we are at such an important time where the local manufacturers and enterprises are beginning to push back on the large importers in our aspiration to grow the economy. I will, yes, the issue of pesticides, somewhere maybe also Abaho will shed light on some of these, but you will, I want to inform members on the call that pesticides and chemicals are regulated by Ministry of Agriculture and NDA, but we develop standards that they use to produce some of these. The enforcement, what are we doing on being efficient in enforcement? Recruiting every Ugandan, every agency as a police for quality. And I think lastly, we are looking to employ technology in our efforts for tracking and tracing so that we can build what we call a national quality institute. On that agenda, I think Professor Abaho would like to share our efforts with MUBS in developing what we call the National Standards and Quality Institute. I submit, colleagues.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kasigwa. Professor Ernest Abaho, Dr. Kasigwa has talked about them moving away from policing to hand-holding. How can the agencies and procurement bodies better monitor the supply chain to ensure expired and standard products don't reach the market? In your expertise, how do you think they can do that? And then the other question, Professor Ernest Abaho, this is coming in from Elizabeth Sempewa. Why do hospitals buy and hold drugs until they are destroyed? Who inspects their procurement? I think this question is for Dr. Kasuga, but I would want Professor Ernest Abaho to come in before I read these last two questions. Professor, you're most welcome. I think we have lost Prof.
He's requesting to be unmuted. Technical team. Professor Abaho is requesting to be unmuted.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sorry, I changed the gadget because I started moving to another meeting, so I'm on mobile. The effort of MUBS and UNBS to go for the National Quality Institute is largely to strengthen awareness and mindset change towards standards. And in the process, we have already finalized the memorandum of understanding between us, since it is government to government. And this opportunity will be open to the private sector and public sector because each of us has standard requirements and interests. But I think subsequently, We will be engaging the center also to invite us to share updates and what is available for the members of this community. I think that's what I can communicate for now. The administrative processes are also ongoing, so I really want to thank UNBS for allowing to partner with MUBS towards this direction of strengthening our private sector, especially on matters that strengthen market confidence. The other questions, I think I usually prefer when I am having a co-presentation, I leave difficult questions to my bosses. So I think he has attended to most of the technical questions. The rest I may not add any much value, especially that Engineer Kasigwa is in the process, he's the administrator, he's in charge, and he has given us information pertaining the interests that people were asking. Unless there is a very particular one that I need to speak about.
Thank you so much, Professor Ernest Abaho. I want to just ask, there are two more questions, and these ones are specific to Dr. Kasigwa. If you could respond to them in 2 minutes, 1 minute each. One is coming in from Mukaru Mohammed. How can the consulting firms in Uganda partner with government to reach lower entrepreneurs? And then coming in from Elizabeth Sempembwa, why do hospitals buy and hold drugs until they are destroyed? Who inspects their procurement, Doctor? Dr. Kasigwa, you could respond to those in 2 minutes, and then we close Q&A.
No, the second question?
How do hospitals buy? Why do hospitals buy and hold drugs until they are destroyed? Who inspects their procurement? And then the other one, how can the consulting firms in Uganda partner with government to reach lower entrepreneurs?
Yes. Thank you for those 2 questions. And on the first one, how consulting firms can reach down to the local entrepreneurs, UNBS, in partnership with Enterprise Uganda, developed what we call Business Development Services Standards, BDS standards. They are available. They are free of charge, if I may recall, but even if they are for sale, it will be very minimal cost. I would encourage the consulting firms to look out for the BDS standards for Uganda. Then that way we will have a homogeneous and well thought out process on how to reach and support grassroots enterprises or entrepreneurs. Now, talking about hospitals and who expired drugs, I want to give a case, and maybe members can also look out for this. It's a case study about India's health sector, and it is in the World Bank report of 2025 on the importance of standards in all sectors. And for India, they showcased how they revolutionized their health sector to the extent that now India became a health tourism destination. And it was just through adoption of what we call quality management systems standards. Dr. Professor Abaho alluded to it a little bit. We have 2 categories of standards: product standards and systems and processes standards. Now, the quality management standards of processes and systems, these are the ISO 9001, ISO 14001, name them, ISO 27001. So if you're running a business, you will need 2 categories of standards. One for your product or service specific standards, and then the management and processes standards. Now, India and the health sector adopted the quality management standards in their health sector, and that is how they have been able to convince the world that they are doing a very good job. And Uganda, that is a low-hanging given the caliber and the professionalism of our practitioners in our health sector. You'll find that because scientists, doctors are keen, use tools. Those tools must be calibrated so that the results that they give help the doctor to prescribe the problem. Even the drugs have standards that must be followed, but clearly I am watching the time, or the time is watching me. Allow me stop here. Maybe at an opportune time, we will share more. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kasigwa. Thank you so much, Professor Abaho. There are very many questions on the chat I can see, but allow us end Q&A at this particular point. Maybe we shall, through the Director of the Entrepreneurship Centre, we shall have to invite Dr. Kasigwa for a session so that he can respond to all of our queries. Thank you so much. Back to you, Dr. Edith.
Thank you very much, Mr. Andrew Ngwen, for managing the Q&A very well. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, again to appreciate our presenters, Professor Ernest Abaho, and also our Executive Director of UNBS, Engineer Dr. James Kasigwa. We appreciate you. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are humbled that you've been with us. I would like to appreciate the presenters for the finding time in their business schedule to come and talk to the entrepreneurs who are logged on this morning. Engineer Dr. James Kasigwa, we will approach you sometime to come and make a presentation. We are privileged to have you today, but we'll invite you again on another day. Hope you'll find time to come and talk to us again. Ladies and gentlemen, some questions have not been answered, but we are going to work through the center to send them to our presenters. We get answers and they will get back to you. Kindly, you could put your details in the chat to enable technical team reach out to you. We've gone beyond the top of the hour. I would like to take this opportunity to appreciate everybody who logged on this morning. Special thanks to Professor Ernest Abaho. Thank you for coming to make this presentation. Also, special thanks to you, Professor Abaho, for inviting the Executive Director, UNBS, Engineer Dr. James Kasigwa, to come and join the session. We are privileged. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody who has logged on this morning, we appreciate you. Thank you very much. I don't want to waste any more time, but to wish you a blessed Thursday and remind you to again log on same time next week on Thursday. We'll be here to make presentations. We appreciate you. Thank you very much, everybody. Wish you a blessed Thursday. Bye-bye for now.
You gotta get up. You gotta get up and make a move. 'Cause the world will never see you until you do. No, they don't really care what you're going through. So you gotta show them, baby. You gotta show them the real you. You gotta give them what you've got. No, don't let them see what you're not, 'cause you are strong. You are wise. You are worth beyond 1,000 reasons why. And you can't be perfect, baby, 'cause nobody's perfect, darling. But no, 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 there's nobody in the world like you. What do you do when you can't let go? find people who help redesign you. People will find you, but they don't define you. And you will find people who help redesign you. You are a work of art. Bet you didn't think you'd come this far. Now here you are. Baby, you are strong. You are wise. You are worth beyond 1,000 reasons why. And you can be perfect, baby, 'cause nobody's perfect, darling. But no, there's nobody in the world like you.